This is not a dream. We are using your preferred podcast provider as a receiver.
So we're going to talk about a newish movie which we've mentioned on the show briefly before. Ken recommended it to me, and around the same time we were putting together this episode of the show, we wanted to include it in our list. The movie is called The Surrender. It's currently streaming on Shudder, and it's our pleasure to welcome to the show writer and director Julia Max,
Oh,
live
thank
from Los Angeles.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to talk with you both.
Yeah, it's great to have you here. Thank you. Um, Ken, would you like to just fire off your questions?
Yeah. I've got quick fire questions. Fire them off. Um, yeah. So first of all, great film. Really, really fantastic. We've got a lot to say about it, which we'll discuss outside of the interview. But I've tried to tailor my questions to best explain some of the motivations behind the film, but not kind of delve too much into it. Um, I think to kick us off, I'll probably talk about during your promotion of The Surrender, you've said that it was kind of based on your own personal experience of bereavement. Um, so I'm just wondering, what was that like transcribing to film, and were you always going to filter it through horror?
Yes, the plan was always to have this be a horror film. I cannot think of a better genre for dealing with grief than horror. Um, yeah, honestly, like writing this and directing this has been such a wonderful way of processing my stepfather's passing. And it's one of the things I love about art, whether it's film or painting or music or whatever. It's such a wonderful tool to process those really difficult feelings that you can't express super easily, you know? And so yeah, every step of the way, this has been such a learning experience, and it's been really interesting seeing how it's helped me in my own grief process everything.
A lot of the film is about being kind of lost in unreliable memories, or at least recollections that are kind of skewed by individual perception. At one point, Megan is trapped within a memory that she's been latching onto, and she realizes it's her own personal kind of horrible limbo. Was this a realization of your grief process that you wanted to communicate, of that of memory?
Oh God, this is something I struggle with constantly. I don't know about you too. But especially like my mother and I, we constantly have just polar opposite memories of events. And we used to have my stepfather as kind of a tiebreaker to be like, actually, this is what happened. But when he passed away, it's just us trying to sort through these things. And it's very surreal how someone who lived through these experiences with you can have such a different, wildly different recollection of what happened. So that was very important for me to capture because especially when someone passes, your whole perception of them can change and alter. And it's so interesting whether you let someone else's memory affect your own or if you choose to hold on to the memories that you have and choose to remember those as the correct factual ones.
Yeah. And it's very, you confronted in the film about how one-sided that can be, without her mother to kind of deliberate over this memory. Megan's kind of stuck with this horrible cycle of what she perceives, and whether it was real or not. It's quite horrible.
Yeah, well, that's the thing with memories. They're all filtered through our own perception of things, and to be honest, that's very one-sided.
Mm.
It is so important to see other perspectives and to get other sides of things, because usually the truth is not necessarily what we think it is.
it's part of the perception of Megan's character as well. Initially, well, for a lot of the film, she comes off as quite selfish. Obviously, she's a specific demographic of person, and she can come off as quite a negative character. But the film is about her journey. Like there are several different surrenders, both physical and mental, in the movie, and yeah, it's great to see her go through that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it was I think it's really important to show both characters, both the mother and daughter, as flawed. I don't think anyone is perfect and blameless in any situation. And so I'm glad that that came across for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
I
there's
found
different. Go on, guys. Go on.
I was just going to say I found their relationship very convincing. Uh,
Thank
I have many women in my life who have similarly sort of strained relationships, particularly with their mother, and it comes
It's
across
a tricky one.
very well.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
Yeah,
particularly like.
no,
I enjoyed the adoption of the new age stuff, which is something I've personally lived through with my mother.
oh yeah, that's fun navigating those waters. Oh, but yeah.
So it's it's kind of a film of two halves, and we've spoke a lot about the dealing with grief. I mean, it's probably a bit reductive to call it a grief drama in the first half, but that's what it's exploring in that first half. But you open with quite a striking kind of practical effect of this kind of, let's call it, I don't know, a botched resurrection or something. It's quite interesting that you start with that as well and then lead into the first kind of hour, which is the mother-daughter dynamic. Can you tell us a bit about the designing and kind of conceptualizing that monster of the father?
Yeah, I mean the working with our incredible special effects team, Sierra Spence and Russell of Russell Effects, they were so fantastic, and just such a phenomenal team. Their work is so realistic. I mean, there were several points during the process where I would go into the studio to see what they had created and was genuinely like, oh, Sierra, your hand looks super janky and fucked up right now. And then I was like, oh my God, that's the prosthetic. I'm so sorry. I thought that was your actual hand. Um, but it was a lot of fun designing the creatures. We originally took it in a very different direction and then kind of realized that too many other films were going in a similar direction to that. So we did a total 180 and pivoted on a dime, and Sierra was fantastic.
Wow.
Yeah, she was such a trooper. I was like, I know this is completely different than everything we have discussed up until now, but how would you feel about going in this other direction? And luckily, we had enough time, and she was like, great, let's do it.
Wow.
Um,
It is very unique.
Yeah, it
Thank
is.
you. I appreciate that. It is really challenging to come up with creature ideas that you haven't seen before.
Yeah, I can
Um,
imagine. I
yeah,
mean, we're a big appreciators of practical effects on this show, given our age.
they're great.
We grew up with some really good movies. And just on the topic of other movies, could you share some um, of the influences that come into play while you were making The Surrender?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, in terms of the for the actors, because of course each department had their own list of movie references. But for the actors, Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf was actually a really big one because I
Oh
think
wow,
that,
yeah,
that is such a powerhouse powerhouse performances from those actors. And of course, it's a little surreal like using that as a reference when Kate Burton's father was in the movie, Richard Burton. Um, which to be completely honest, I forgot that entirely when I first brought that up to her. And she was
Wow.
like, yeah, I remember being on that set. And I was like, of course you do. Of course you do. Right, right. Totally.
that's awesome.
But yeah, that was a big one to me for the actors because those are such rich characters and it is so much about this power struggle between, you know, the two leading characters. And I feel like that is very much what's happening here with the mother-daughter, is this constant kind of struggle for control over an uncontrollable situation, you know? And then of course we had, you know, Jean Dillman was a big influence for the first act of the film and how we shot it, and coming back to the same camera setups over and over to kind of show that monotony of caretaking, because it is very monotonous and
Mm.
it's draining and exhausting. And you know, for our third act, we went in the complete opposite direction. And once they get to like this crazy other space, a
Mm.
Black Swan was actually a huge reference for that
Oh, yeah, yeah.
camera. But the hilarious thing about that, we had so many big camera movements planned. And then once we got into this space, we realized, oh, dear God, if you don't have a clear point of reference in the background, a lot of these don't actually work.
Ah,
And it's a void. Yeah.
Yeah, because the thing is, in, you know, in my little storyboards, I was like, you always have the circle at the bottom to kind of ground you and help show you. But in order to achieve that, the circle would have had to have been massive, you know, and it wouldn't have
yeah,
actually fit
sure.
the living room. So it was very interesting getting it's one of those interesting things about filmmaking when you get into the space and realize, some of the things we have planned didn't quite work. So now we've got to pivot and figure out a way to make them work.
Nice. Um, now we've spoken a bit about the second half of the film, which kind of goes into that kind of supernatural vibe and influences. One of our favorite films here at the Manchester Morgue is Liam Gavin's A Dark Song.
I love a dark
Which
song.
I recommended The Surrender to Gaz by saying you've got to watch this. It's got real Dark Song vibes. So that was an influence, was it?
Oh, absolutely. I love that movie so much. Yeah, I feel like sometimes with filmmaking there is a fear that people have of like, oh, maybe this is too similar, and if it's been done before, you can't do anything similar to it again. But personally, I think this is really different from A Dark Song, but A Dark Song gave me the confidence
Mm,
that making a movie like that was possible. You know, because it is really tremendously helpful to be able to see another slow burn horror film that takes
Mm.
its time, but is wonderful. It's a
Yeah.
beautiful film. And to be able to be like, hey, it worked here. This is proof that doing it this way does work. Because I feel like slow burn in particular, people get very, very anxious about that at times, which
Mm.
is
yeah,
one of the reasons that we opened the movie in the way we did. It's a promise to our audience that it's like, if you stick with us,
Yeah.
things will go crazy. You just got to be patient, because if you don't take that time to set it up in the beginning, you don't get to know your characters and you don't care about them. And if you don't care about them, then the whole second half of the movie doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
yeah. It's a great tonal up and down in a good way. You start with that kind of startling image, and you almost forget about it because you get so involved in the lives of these two kind of these people dealing with illness and death. And then when it turns back around and we come into the which is what reminded me of Dark Song, um, the man comes into the plot and there are kind of lore implications behind him that are never explained, but in a really good way. I think
Mm.
that's what kind of really sells it. You don't have to know the details of this. It's all about atmosphere and mood. Very, very cool. And they are
Uh,
they are very distinctly different films.
Thank you. Yeah, I think sometimes I think sometimes there is a tendency to over-explain. I feel like a lot of the times that's like the
Mm-hmm.
studio note, like, oh, you need to make it clear why everyone does exactly what they do and where they come from. And sometimes that makes it less scary when you
Yeah,
explicitly explain it all.
it does. I think it was the last episode, wasn't it, Ken? We discussed the Blair Witch Project, which is
Mm.
obviously an iconic movie, and on similar terms, you don't really see anything. A lot of stuff is not explained, and the talking heads in the town at the beginning, they're all very vague about what they've seen out in the woods. It's not very defined, and that adds to it.
Mm. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, look at 2001: A Space Odyssey. It's like
Yeah.
as soon as you actually explicitly say what the ending is, it just falls apart, and you're just like, huh, okay, I guess. But when you don't say it, it leads so much more open to interpretation, and it's much more mystical and
Yeah.
imaginative and creative.
Yeah. Um, I really loved Pieces of Me. Your short.
Thank you.
I feel like there are some tonal similarities with The Surrender, specifically with people feeding off each other, both physically and mentally. Is that kind of is that kind of a thematic through line in your work? Is that what you're thinking about when you're writing?
I love that. Yes, it is. But I really love the way you put that. Yes, 100%.
Mm.
Oh gosh, that was a fun one. I remember with Pieces of Me, I showed the script to a few people, other writers that I know and professors from USC, and it's really interesting how that kind of satire and hu dark humor doesn't necessarily come across on the page when you're
Mm.
reading the script. When you see it, it makes sense, but oh boy, when I was in the script phase for that one, it was really interesting seeing so many people just be like, I don't, I don't understand, but I think you might need therapy. This is really not. And then they saw it and they were like, oh, I get it. It was supposed to be funny. I was like, yes.
Yeah. But thank you for judging me ahead of time.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm really glad that that was your takeaway upon the first read. Cool.
Yeah.
Mm.
Speaking of tonal, not so much clashes, but tonal differences, what was it like transitioning to this kind of material after spending 4 years as production designer on the Swan Princess?
Mhm.
That's right. I went to IMDb.
I know. One of the funny things about IMDb is once you get a credit up there, you cannot take it off, which is hilarious to me. And I'm just like, oh, okay, everything is just up there forever. Yes, no, the Swan Princess, that was my day job for many years, and I am
Mm.
so grateful that I had that. I learned a lot about filmmaking, but more importantly than that, the hours in that allowed me to write, which is fantastic. Because as you know, when you're doing a day job, and especially if you're working in film, which are really long hours,
Mm.
it can be really challenging to work on your own projects.
Mm.
But yes, animation is a totally different beast, and I don't know, I hope to jump back into it at some point. But yes, Swan Princess was a very different world. Not even remotely my cup of tea story-wise. Um, but it taught me a lot, especially on the production accounting front, which was incredibly helpful on the Surrender and Pieces of Me, as well as the scheduling side of things. Having an understanding of that process makes directing a lot easier.
Yeah, from what little I know about the logistics of filmmaking, it feels like it would be a boon to learn that side of it first, or at least along the journey.
Yeah, I feel like it's the side that is very boring to most people. And so they're like, oh, I'll just skip over it and leave it to the producers. And
Yeah.
you can do that. But personally, I find having a background in that extremely helpful because it helps you stay on budget, it helps you stay on schedule, and have realistic expectations of what you can actually accomplish.
So I think that's it for me for the general kind of focus questions. But I did wonder what's next for Julia Max.
Oh boy. I mean, right now I'm writing several different things. We'll see which gets going next.
Nice.
I think that is the crazy, unpredictable nature of filmmaking is that you always have like five different projects going and you have no idea what is actually going to
Sure.
get going next. But they are all a horror. Not
Yes.
going to this.
There we go. Nice.
So yes, all horror films. But definitely, after the surrender, I definitely well, to be honest, it's less about the surrender and more about where my country is at the moment. I need something a little
Well,
light. I think we all need a little escapism right
Sure. Yeah, yeah,
now.
yeah.
So yes, so dealing with things that are a bit more fun and lighthearted. I mean, I kept calling the surrender fun, but my husband Ian, who's also a producer on this, was like, I don't think that's the right word to use.
it is
It
quite
is.
fun in
It's
places.
funny. I mean,
I think it's fun.
yeah.
But yeah, I think horror is by far, I mean, to make a horror film is the most fun genre to create. I think comedy is probably the least fun and the most challenging in many ways. Because like the jokes get so repetitive and it's really hard to kind of keep up that
Yeah.
energy take after take. But horror is always a blast, especially when you're dealing with practical effects and it's not
Yeah.
all CGI green screen. That's really difficult to do.
Mm.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what goes next.
Yeah. So are
So
we.
we.
If before you go, we won't keep you much longer. I messaged you that with the kind of theme of our show is that we pair up a couple of movies for a double bill.
Yes.
So I wanted to ask you what you felt might be a good companion piece for the surrender. I know what my thoughts are, and I'm sure Ken's got his thoughts.
Oh, I'm
But yeah,
excited.
please share that.
For me, I think a really fun pairing with the surrender would be Whatever Happened to Baby Jane.
Oh well.
Yeah. I think now you've mentioned that, I might pair them in the future.
Yeah.
Just think that would be such a fun double feature there. Oh, I love that movie so much. And that was also a big inspiration for this movie as well. I gotta ask, I am so curious. First off, when's the last time you saw that movie?
Baby
Many
Jane.
years ago, honestly.
Um, so I saw it when it had a recent in the UK. It had a recent kind of restoration on Blu-ray, and I got that. I watched it recently. It was very good.
It's
It's a,
wonderful.
so I studied it in university, and for some reason, when I studied it, I wasn't under the impression that it was kind of horror adjacent. But as the more I watch it, which is crazy, really, but the more I watch it, I'm very into the horror of it and how it's influenced a lot of things in the horror genre.
Absolutely. Well, that's the thing that's so interesting about the horror genre is it covers so many wildly different films. And I think that there's a tendency for people to just assume, oh, horror, that's, slashers, blood and guts and
Yeah.
everything. It's
Yeah.
Mhm.
like, it encapsulates so many other types of movies. So many of my family members who adamantly are like, I hate horror films. They were very kind and watched Surrender because I made it. They're like, oh, it like actually had a story. It was like I actually enjoyed it. There were actually characters. I'm like, yeah,
Yeah, that can happen.
a lot of horror films. Horror is
Yeah.
what you think it is. But I would be very curious to hear your perspective on Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. The Every time I watch it, I am always surprised because I always somehow forget about the crazy relationship between the British guy and his mom and how over the top they are. It's like they're acting in a different movie. And, as Brits, what's that like watching that?
I can't well I can't give you any personal insight into having a horrible relationship with my mother. I don't know what you're talking about. No, she listens to the podcast. She knows that we're fine for now.
She. Oh.
But it feels like such a caricature. I mean, my mom's British, and so I have a lot of family in London. But I remember always being like, gosh, that's not what this is not my perception of British culture at all. And I was just wondering how you felt about it.
I think it is, yeah, it's skewed through a lens. Yeah, it through that kind of that melodramatic psychodrama lens. But yeah, I'm thinking on it now.
It is wild. Like, yeah, the next time you watch it, give it really tune in on that. It's just like, huh, it reminds me very much of when I was a kid and I used to go and visit my cousins in London, and they had this perception of Americans that we were all like the people you see on Jerry Springer. And I was like,
Mm.
what? How is that? I was like, you know me, I've never behaved this way. And they're like, yeah, but you're half British, so that's
It,
why.
yeah, it's the media the cultural filter, isn't it? The media perception. I only recently went to America for the first time, and I was actually shocked that everyone is very nice, very nice and polite.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Wait, where did you go?
Seattle, we went to Snoqualmie in Seattle.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah,
Very cool.
a Twin Peaks holiday.
Love that.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So wait, I'm curious to know what you guys would choose for double billing.
Well, now I'm turned around to Baby Jane. Obviously, I really want. I did actually watch A Dark Song again after the surrender because because I really love both films, and we've spoken about this, but both films have this. The perception is that in this world, in the world that the characters inhabit, the super, magic is real. Like for the H.G. Wells quote about, for all intents and purposes, like science and magic, it's just a thing commonplace in the world. And these characters, these magicians or whatever you want to call them, wander in and out of the plots. Well, with the Dark Song, it's a central character, but it's never explained. It's just kind of commonplace. Even the main characters in the surrender, when confronted, Megan is quite taken aback, obviously, but when confronted with this, they very quickly reach an equilibrium with the situation, which I find quite engaging. Um, the I suppose it would have been easy to make the characters hysterical throughout and like never kind of gaining any sort of balance with their environment, but Megan does quite quickly, and her mother as well at the beginning. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that is one of the really interesting things about grief that I really wanted to make sure came through in the movie is that it's not just one note all the time. It is such an emotional roller coaster, and I always think of it as just losing your emotional filter. So everything that comes through, you can't really control it the way you normally would. Every passing thought, every passing feeling comes through so strong, and then it's gone and on to the next one.
Yeah.
Um,
And you question yourself. I had a conversation quite recently with a friend who's recently lost a grandparent, and it was quite a long, protracted illness. But he didn't really feel anything afterwards, and he was like, "Why am I numb? Is it me?" And I'm like, "It's a long, protracted process. You've already made these calculations in your head. Just because now you're numb, you don't, you shouldn't question yourself."
yeah, that's such a normal response. Having like to just go numb for a while, it is one of the things like I don't feel like we talk about this enough in society, and I think it's such a pity because when you're going through it, it does feel extremely isolating, and it makes you question yourself in ways like, am I doing something wrong? Is there something wrong with me? Whereas if we were able to discuss it a bit more freely, I think people would realize like, oh, no, this is just part of the process, and it's something that we all go through at some point.
Yeah, there's quite an interesting, just going back to the film briefly, there's quite an interesting dynamic in the first kind of act where the characters aren't communicating in any conventional sense. They're kind of backbiting, and no one's kind of telling each other how they feel. And there's this kind of the nurse comes in at one point and acts as kind of a proxy, feeding information and impressions between them, and that's the viewer gets kind of an idea of what kind of characters they are through that communication. It's quite interesting.
Yeah. No, it's so much of that in that first act that was, inspired by what my mother and I went through, which was a complete surprise to me at the time. And one of the things that was so important that I really wanted to bring through in this is the whole giving a loved one half the amount of morphine. That's extremely common, apparently. It happens all the time. And the overdose of morphine, that's how my stepfather passed away. And it is incredibly common. A lot of people I've talked to, it's so easy to get those doses screwed up, especially when there's so many people coming in and out of the house. And yeah, the guilt that comes with that, the fear and the unknowing what to do or how to handle that situation. Yeah, I really wanted to capture that and share that with people.
That definitely came through.
Yeah.
It was deeply felt.
Thank you. And Gaz, I'm so sorry we didn't get to your what would you have
Oh,
picked?
don't worry. Similarly, thematically, I went with Justin Dick's Anything for Jackson. Have you seen that movie?
Oh, I haven't.
Oh yeah, that's
It's
For Jackson?
a good choice,
it's a bit
actually.
more obvious when you read the synopsis. You'll see what I mean. It's possibly a bit more obvious than what you guys were saying, but I think it would make for a good double bill with The Surrender, definitely. But check it out; it's a great movie.
Oh,
Similar themes. There's a lot of grief in there and stuff, and it's I think you'll get a kick out of it.
nice. I love it. I love movie recommendations.
Yeah, well, I'm definitely not going to say any more on that because I think you really like it, Julia.
Cool. Wonderful. I'm assuming it's a horror.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do occasionally watch other things, but mainly horror movies.
Yeah, my friends are always shocked when my top 10 of the year, some of them are not horror. My number 2 last year was Anora. That's a drama.
Oh, that was such a good one.
It's very good.
Yeah, that was. Did you see? Oh my gosh, wait. What is it? Exuma?
No.
No, I haven't seen Exuma.
Oh my God.
Add to that to the
was
list.
That was one of my favorites last year. It was this Korean film. It blew my mind. It was so
great.
good. Yeah, it was one of those like I feel like the first half of it would have been like can already see the Americanized version of it, like, oh, this is how they would make, and then they just pivoted so hard and it's fantastic.
That's great.
Yeah. Let me know what you think when you see it, but it's great.
Yeah, that's one for the list. Thank you. All right, cool. We won't keep you any longer, Julia. Thank you so much for being part of the show. This is really special for us. We'll send you a link to the episode when it's up, and you can, have a listen.
Have a listen to yourself.
Have a listen to yourself, though.
Well, thank you so much
you.
for having me. It's been such a pleasure talking with you both.
It was great to talk to you. Awesome.
Thank
you very much, Julia. Take care.
Bye.
Wonderful. Everyone. Bye.
Live from Manchester Morgue is an independent horror movie podcast, researched, written, produced and hosted by Gary Hames and Ken Talbot. New episodes air every 2 weeks on Spotify, Apple, YouTube and all major podcast providers. You can help us grow by leaving a rating or sharing the show with like-minded friends. If you want to get in touch, you can leave us a comment or email us at killertunes976@gmail.com.